Networking. I'm just going to talk about networking. Super important. Cannot begin to tell anybody out there how important it is to network. If you're not going to publicize, discuss with people your passion for music and what you want to do, nobody's going to do it for you.
Good morning, folks. My name is Steve Rennie, and I am the Renman. And this little program is called Renman Live. If you're looking to do something big in this music business, folks, whatever that might be, you are in the right place today. For the last 3 years now, we've been getting together with some of the smartest, most talented folks in the whole music business to talk about today's business and to help you folks out looking to get in, sort it all out. Today, our guest is Fred Croshal, who's one of the most respected marketing and sales executives in the whole of the music business. And he's going to talk with us today about what it takes to actually succeed in this business. But before we meet Fred, I want to introduce my wonderfully talented team of players here at the Renman Live Empire. Over in the corner there, is Cody Romness. There they are. What a fine looking bunch. That man over there is Cody the Trojan Man. Almost forgot about that. A former football player for all of you folks. He is very buff, but he's the guy that's driving. He's the one that's making me look good, or when he's pissed off, maybe he's making me not look so good. So thank you for your help today, Cody. Please get my good side. To his right is the lovely and talented former Marine, now RenmanU student and intern. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yes. Yeah, she looks good in a uniform, doesn't she, folks? That's Liz Quintanilla by way of Phoenix, now in LA. Say hello, Liz.
Hello.
Liz, I have to ask you while I have you here, is it true you were actually in the Marines?
It's true.
Wow.
It's true.
God, the other day we were talking about her military. I thought it was your father, but it was you in the military.
Best behavior today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, happy to have you out of the line of fire, I suppose. But Liz will be presiding over the chat room today and also taking questions on the phone. So if you got a question for Liz in the chat room, make it tight and she'll get it to me. If you're calling in on the phone, make sure you have a great connection and that you tell her who you are, where you're from, and what your question is, and we'll try to get that answered during the show. We got a saying around here, if you don't ask, didn't work, Cody. You got, oh, there you go. See, we got all the gags here, I'll tell you. You don't ask, you don't get. Cody must have been pissed at me right there. Anyway, we want you to ask questions here, folks, and the way to do that is pretty simple. Let me show you. If you are watching the show on our Renman Live player right now, you'll notice that we're probably already in the chat room. So if you got a question there, I want you to post it and Liz will get it to me. We also have a more old school way to ask your questions. It's on our Renman Live hotline. You can dial in at 310-469-9067. And if you do that, you can have one of those fine shirts that Liz was wearing, or something a little more subtle, something you can wear to the family dinner called Dream It, Do It. So you call in, you move to the head of the class, and you get a prize. I don't know how much easier we can make that, to be honest with you, folks. All right, I'm getting all my papers sorted out. I'm going to go paperless for the rest of this day, Code. All right, bang. All right, there we go. Also, before I forget, there's a mystery man here that also handles all of our social media. He's our social media manager. He's a musician, producer himself. His name is Joseph Pepalonius Pepe, who's somewhere out there in the lowlands of South Carolina today. So anyway, that's it, folks. Welcome to our 113th broadcast here today. Now let me introduce you to that mysterious voice that you heard back there. Millions of artists around the world are making music and hoping that it gets heard. But with so many artists out there competing for the music consumer's attention, standing out from the crowd has never been more difficult. Our guest today is a longtime music professional. He spent his whole adult life marketing and selling music. There's a reason they call him Fred Croshal. He's been a senior executive at some of the top labels in the music business, including Sony Music and Madonna's Maverick Records. When it comes to selling music, nobody does it better than my guest today. He's here today to share his knowledge and wisdom on what it takes to stand out in the crowd of today's music business. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome my good friend, Fred Croshal. How you doing, Fred?
Thank you, Steve. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
I want to say thank you for joining us again.
You got it.
And if you haven't watched our show, I'll briefly tell you. Fred was actually the very first guest on our show 3 years ago. And he came into the office, looked a little bit different.
Much different.
Back then.
You really upgraded.
We have upgraded. The only thing that hasn't upgraded is the host, but that's have to deal with that. Anyway, we wound up botching that. I think the thing didn't record properly or something. And anyway,
it's a lost treasure now.
It is a lost treasure. It is truly lost here now. So anyway, Freddie was gracious enough to come back again, and I want to thank you for that.
You got it. Thank you.
The folks that are watching our show, Fred, are by and large, aspiring artists and aspiring music professionals, right, who are looking to do something in this music business. And you and I know that sometimes the dreaming about it is the easiest part because you always get happy endings. But getting started, getting that first gig, getting that first person to say yes is really the toughest part of it. And in my experiences, there's no tried and true path. So I'm going to ask you the same thing I've asked those 112 guests after that lost episode. How did Fred Croshal get started working in the music business?
Oh, man.
We have time. It's the internet.
Like most everybody tuned in today, it starts with the passion and love of music. So I spent every penny, every dollar that I had going to the record store every week, talking to the people at the record store and just loving the vibe, the culture, everything, learning so much about all the different genres of music, and it was a cool place to hang at the time, And I'm sad about, what's happened with traditional record stores. In 1976, I walked into a warehouse record store in San Mateo, California, my hometown, and they were hiring Christmas help. And I swear that's how it all started. I was hired as Christmas help. I was 19 years old, $2.65 an hour. And within about 6 months, I was assistant manager. Within another year, I was running the largest record store in the San Francisco Bay Area and had like 20, 25 employees. So that kind of kicked me off. And I've never looked back.
So you started...
It was a passion thing. I never really thought that it would be my career. But now, 38 years later...
38 years. I was afraid to ask on both of our accounts how many years, so I keep it to 30 plus years now. Let me ask you a question about that. You got your start as a help, right? Timing and lighting, right place, right time, right? Clearly you made an impact there working at that record store, right? My question has to do with networking because I know more of your history and we're going to bleed a little bit more out of you, Fred. That was the really short version, folks. Somewhere along the line working at that record store, you were obviously meeting customers. You probably started meeting some people at record labels because you ultimately, where I first met you was working at Sony Music. Talk about how you transitioned from record store guy to record industry leader.
So networking. I'm just going to talk about networking. Super important. Cannot begin to tell anybody out there how important it is to network. If you're not going to publicize, discuss with people your passion for music and what you want to do, nobody's going to do it for you. You have to start somewhere. So for me, it was working in the record store. It was talking to any label rep that came in. And that evolved when I started running the biggest record store. Then it was, they wanted to talk to me about, placement of new releases and Billboard reporting and all of that. I had something tangible to give them. And, that came in the form of tickets and everything, and I got to go to shows. And I've always been a people person. So, people are the ones that really accelerate in this business. So I knew everybody in the Bay Area. So when that time in the early 80s, where there was a label position with CBS Records, they all knew who I was.
Yeah.
So I had a one-up. Got to create those opportunities for yourself. So networking, knowing what people do, understanding what they do, and more importantly, seeing a path for yourself and maybe how they can help you get there.
Let me ask you a question. Today, we kind of do it effortlessly, but I get so many questions about people, I don't know how to network. Was it a conscious decision on your part very early in your career, before you had something to offer the people that were ultimately coming to you? Was it a conscious effort on your part when a CBS label or a Warner rep came in to go and meet them? Did you make it make it your point in a pleasant way to do that?
Yes, but at the same time, I really don't think it was part of a calculated effort. Okay, I think a lot of it has to do with personality. So there's a lot of people that may be shy and timid. You're going to have to shed that a little bit. You really are. You
got to ask, you don't get, right?
Exactly, and I'll give you an example. The day that I started at CBS Records, I met my bosses at the airport. I flew to Hawaii. An over-the-top convention, everybody, CBS, worldwide, publishing, international companies, and it was based on all the money and income that was coming from Michael Jackson Thriller. So, I was like, from record store guy to like, oh my God, the way these people partied and just the opulence was amazing to me. And my boss, that very first night, they had this huge cocktail party outside. I'll never forget this. And one of my bosses said, "You're going to go far. You're going to go far." And I said, "What's up?" And he said, "Well, I just saw you introduced yourself to the heads of the company, where I got people that have worked for me 5-10 years that they've never." And I go, "They're only people. What are they going to do?"
Yeah.
So anyway, I can't stress enough about networking.
Yeah.
They need to know who you are.
It's, I'm like a broken record on that one too. Yeah. If you got to get out there. Nobody's going to knock on your door and grant you the wish of your life. You got to go out and make it happen. So when you were working at Sony Music, you got involved on the sales side. Ultimately, Mark, you spent how many years at Sony Music?
So CBS Records was bought by Sony in '87. So I was in distribution for 11 and a half years. And then I moved to the label side, where I was VP of sales for Columbia Work Group. So the work group had Fiona Apple, Jamiroquai, some of those artists. And, great experience and natural segue to move to the label side from distribution and sales.
Okay.
So.
And that's where I met Fred and became aware of the legend of Fred Croshal, because Fred could work you could work the building like nobody, Fred. And people, you mentioned something, and I'll say it again. We've had other people say it. Likability, whether you're an artist or a professional, is key in this business, right? And it doesn't mean you need to be a suck-up, or you need to be engaging and make it fun to do business with you, and people did that. Somewhere along the line, though, you left the mighty Sony, which, frankly, folks, if you'd ever worked there, that takes a little balls. You got a lot of people that don't do it willingly. You did. Talk about your time at Maverick Records working for Madge.
So, that was really fantastic part of my career. In '96, I got a phone call from Freddie DeMann, who was Michael Jackson's manager at one time. And then he took on this young lady by the name of Madonna, and was her only manager up until that point. So this is 1996. And I took one meeting with Freddie, and Freddie knew, I was an executive and people had told him about me. But one meeting, and he's like, "I want you to come in." And at first I was hesitant, and I told him, I said, you guys are awesome. You have Alanis Morissette coming out, and you have the Deftones, and you have Michelle Indegliocello, and you have all these things happening. Candlebox was a big seller. But I said, I'm so used to working so many records, I like to be busy. I'm still like, love what I do. So he said, well, I understand that. Maybe we don't have the, wealth of releases that you're accustomed to, but here's the situation. We really want to kind of break free from our brethren in Warner Brothers. It was a joint venture, Maverick, with Warner Brothers. And we want to take control of our own destiny. So let me clarify for everybody. Promotionally speaking, radio promotion, publicity, sales, everything was handled for Maverick, not in Beverly Hills at their office, but over in Burbank by Warner Brothers. Freddie was very astute and smart that, look at, our records don't get prioritized, right?
Yeah.
Of course, Alanis explodes.
Sure, they're all
but
over
you
that.
can't count on every record exploding. You have to develop it. So he was very straightforward in telling me one of the reasons he wanted me to come in was because of my management strength and helping develop departments. So,
And that's where all that experience of Sony came in.
Sales department, marketing department. We grew a promotion staff and etc.
Yeah, I think we'll talk some more about all that stuff because I think those are the kinds of things that when artists are out there thinking about putting a record out that are not obvious to people out there how records actually get in the store, show up on radio, show up on video channels and so forth.
How they get multi-image.
Yeah. Now, I could go on forever, you and I, but I know folks are impatient as hell out there, so they're probably going, okay, we got the life story here, now help me, right? But before we do that, I want you to talk about, you've worked inside these big, successful corporations for a long time, pretty much your whole adult life, and then now you are out on your own with Croshal Entertainment. Tell the folks exactly what you're doing now, and then, folks, Fred's going to help solve some of your problems here today.
Okay, so Croshal Entertainment Group, and I think we have all of the socials and everything. If you want to check us out, follow us, etc. Was really designed when I rolled it out 12 years ago as a hub that was going to be artist friendly. And really a place where we felt we could help many people. And, from the mindset at the beginning, it was we can help artists, yes. We can help managers, yes. We can help record labels, yes, if they want it or even think they need it. Sometimes, very big egos in our business, right? What we have is experience. So, having been a vice president of sales and a head of marketing and having run a label and being able to speak to sales, marketing, publicity, radio promotion, press, everything, I felt like, and distribution for 11 and a half years of my career, I felt, there's probably without one exception, and that's the making of the music. Yeah, I can really speak very straightforward in all those areas. Yeah. So I was very blessed with my first client. My first client was a manager by the name of Bill Silva, and he had
He's also been on the show.
And he had a brand new artist that, thank God, a year later, everybody knew who he was. And his name, Jason Mraz. And that ended up being my first client after 2 days of having my business. And Bill used my knowledge and our expertise very specifically. Being appendage of management, everybody at Elektra Records knew me from the president on down, so they would take my call. Once again, that networking comes back into play. Oh, yeah. And they all knew me in the Warner family as running Maverick. So it's like I was not viewed as this guy that knows too much. I was viewed on their side as, oh, God, he knows what we go through and what we do every day. Yeah. And stuff happened very quickly. Bill got somebody to help execute. Yes. And you know what? God bless, Jason had a great record, worked very hard. A year later, here we are, 1 million records, and his career's now history. It's going well.
Smart people, and even the smarter they are, the more they know they need help, and they go look for great people. And so for you folks that want to know more about Bill, go check down in our player here. Code, give me on
Amazing guy. Amazing
if
guy.
you go down here in our player code and you click on this thing here, past shows, folks, I don't suggest you do it now, but you click through there and you can scroll down to the bottom. Bill was one of our earliest guests and a smart guy, and I've always been a huge fan of Bill Silva.
So getting back to what we do.
Sorry to cut you off there.
Our variety of services. He was my first client, and that kind of set it off to what we could become. The first thing is each potential client evaluate needs. What do they really need? Because a young developing artist who may be watching or listening right now, those needs are far different.
Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, far different from an artist that's established, has brand identity, etc. So with that, it was very specific on what Bill needed, and that worked well. We offer an array of services, and sometimes the artists that come to us really don't know what it is they need. So part of that is just assessment and strength of brand, basically evaluation. So we do a lot of marketing. The biggest part of our business right now is actually what has become the term label services. And there's a lot of people that say they do that out there. And with all respect to them, I think that the resume of having been vice president of sales, run a label, a head of marketing, that gives the credibility on why we can do what we can do. We have sold domestically U.S. SoundScan numbers, projects that we quarterbacked, independent projects, over 5 million records, and another couple million outside, because we also oversee international campaigns. But the label services part of it is where a lot of brand artists will come to us and say, they have smart enough managers that realize we have a specific skill set they may not have. Managing their artist is 24/7, as you well know.
Look at this face.
And dealing with price points, discounting structures, how to get it on the front page of iTunes, all the things that we do, they'd rather hand that off and be a part of the team. So the artists that we help run their independent labels for are, Bonnie Raitt, Jackson Brown,
we got a few,
Crosby, Stills and Nash, Herb Alpert, Red Foo from LMFAO. And so that's a little bit of an overview.
Excellent. Well, you know what? I'll give you some contact information at the end for Fred, if you want to reach out to him about some of the things he does, because I think for some artists that might have a budget, it's a great idea. Now, while we're on this whole subject of getting started, Fred, we started an online course. Put together an online course, mostly at the prodding of Cody Romness back there, with the idea to help people who are getting started in the business get a great overview of what they're getting into. So today, we wanted to start a new segment on the show that kind of spotlights some of those lessons. The course is 150 different lessons across the board. But today, we're going to have our first RenmanU lesson of the week, and I hope it'll be a nice little intro to what we're talking today. It's called Introduction to Marketing and Promotion, and we'll watch along, Fred, and you'll grade me on the overview here. Take it away, Code. So much of the conversation in today's music business centers around how artists are getting paid. Or I suppose I should say more accurately, how they're not getting paid. I spent the better part of 20 years as an artist manager, so I understand very clearly the importance of artists getting paid. But I also know that conversation distracts attention away from the biggest issue facing artists and professionals, and that is how to get great music heard. How to stand out from the crowd has always been the great challenge in the music business. It was true back when the record industry released 5,000 records a year, and even more true now that millions of artists are creating and distributing music. If nobody hears a great song, or reads about a great artist, or sees a great performer in concert, there won't be any money to argue over, plain and simple. And the truth is that even if you're fortunate enough to get that music heard, there's no guarantee that it will sell or be successful in a commercial sense. Marketing and promotion is what gets your music in front of music consumers. It gives you a chance to make your case for their attention and ultimately their money if they like what they hear and see. And then it's up to those music consumers to decide the winners and losers in the music business. While we can't ultimately control what those consumers like or don't like, we can control how we present that music in the best possible way. Marketing is all about telling your story. And in this lesson, we're going to talk about how to market and promote your music and turn those music consumers into fans. My goal is to give you a top-level view of what you should be thinking about when it comes to marketing and promoting your music. We're going to talk about the key elements in a marketing plan, whether you're a major label or an indie artist. We're going to talk about how to craft your image and brand with your music, your photos, your videos, and how you can assemble all those pieces in a way that gives you the best chance of success. And then we'll focus on the things that you can reasonably achieve on your own to tell your story in the most compelling possible way. Okay, there it is, our little introduction to marketing and promotion. What do you think, Fred?
Pretty good.
Fair, okay.
I'm sold.
Okay, well, he's a professional, so if Fred's giving me A, I'm going to take that. You know, lots of artists here that I meet on the show send me notes telling that they've made an album or an EP and that they're going to release it on such and such a date. And most of them are asking for advice on how to promote that record. You spent a lot of time working at major labels, working for the labels. I spent a brief amount of time at Sony, but a bunch of time working with labels from the outside looking in. And I think both of us have an understanding that all record releases aren't equal, right? And I think that for most artists, they're probably dreaming about doing something big, being Jay-Z or Beyonce or Rolling Stones or whoever it might be. So I thought for the purpose of the discussion today, to give everybody a little overview, it might be worth spending 5 minutes on, based on all your experience of, what does a world-class, worldwide record release look like, okay, at that top level? And then we'll talk, I think we got a question about budget there, which we'll take once we get there.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go from A to Z and start with Z.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Because the first thing I want to explain to everybody is the big, the everything, the dream sequence doesn't necessarily happen that quick. Some of the artists that I deal with, we're talking about decades to get to that point. So there's a lot of steps, and we'll talk about those later. But a big campaign is what I call something that has never changed in our business, which is multiple impression warfare. It is really on all fronts. So what does that mean? I describe it and have described it in a couple classes as you look at this big wheel and you start to think about what things can you implement. And I think compartmentalized, okay, in sales. So what does that mean? Any traditional record store, a Target, a Walmart, an Amazon, unbelievable. You walk into the store, it's the first thing you see. You go on Amazon's homepage, it's the first thing you see. You go see that big brick on iTunes. It's undeniable. That's sales. That's a little example of sales. There's even more to it than that. And it becomes into pricing and all that. We don't have enough time.
We don't have time,
today. Then we get into press, okay? Read about it, see it, hear it, everything that press is. For example, on the last Bonnie Raitt campaign, which I'm very proud of, we sold 400,000 independently and she won a Grammy. There was no major newspaper daily, LA Times, Boston Globe, New York Times, San Francisco Chronicle, that there wasn't something written about that record. Also, there was no magazine, whether it be Rolling Stone, People, that didn't have something on Bonnie that week of release. So that's just reading. Then what about seeing? 4 television shows, Ellen, Letterman, All this in the span of 1 week, okay? So people were seeing her on TV. People were reading about her in the newspaper, okay? And people were going into record stores and seeing it. Then we go to radio. Timed out perfectly. Once again, one of the things that we do and I do is orchestrate. So with radio, we're talking about it. We had a top 15 track, and it went top 15 the week of release. So we had maximum exposure that we could have on radio. In a perfect huge plan, you also have maximum exposure on a video, and then we get into social networking. We get into use of Spotify, RDO, all these other things where you make it undeniable. There has been many, many, many surveys that people have to be, we okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That, okay. That people have to get an impression upon them, hearing a song on radio, seeing something 10 times before they're going to be in a position of reaction. So just having a great song is not enough.
Yeah.
Surrounding it, and really, like I say, it's warfare.
Yeah.
On all fronts, everything. I didn't even mention getting a song placed in a film, television, an ad.
Which is becoming a huge...
All of that going on, think of the wheel. What else can be plugged in? Video promotion, radio promotion, press, sales, all these things. The more spokes in the wheel, the faster it turns.
Yeah.
Sales.
Sale. And it ultimately ends with sales. Now, all of that stuff, and by the way, that is a great 5-minute overview. Touring.
I didn't even mention touring.
We're going to leave some stuff out, but by the end of the
Yeah.
show, folks, we're going to cover it all here. All of that stuff, you know, all those, the multiple impression warfare. Cody, I'm stealing that. There's your highlight film right there. Multiple impression warfare requires lots of ammo. What were the typical, give me the range of budgets for a beginning act, just starting off on a label, mid-level, and over-the-top superstar, briefly.
Well, I hate to scare some people.
Please,
because,
this is reality TV here, folks.
You know.
If you heard the Donald said, you'd know it was true.
Yeah. So, an all-on campaign, like I said, I'm sorry I didn't mention touring. I didn't even mention consumer advertising.
Yeah.
You know, buying TV ads and so forth. We have run campaigns that have been as high as 1.5 million on the independent.
And that doesn't include the cost of making videos. We didn't talk about that.
Right. Well, yes, yeah. But that campaign did. You know, that was making of videos and building a website and everything that you could possibly imagine.
$1.5 million.
When we released Alanis Morissette's second record, coming off of Jagged Little Pill, the budget on that, between video and travel and being on Saturday Night Live and all these costs that are associated with the worldwide release, was certainly north of $4 million. So when you see these massive campaigns via the labels, they're still spending money, not to the point where they were in the 90s, but they're still spending some massive money.
Yeah.
There's many videos out there now, between 1 million and 2 million videos. Still.
That's crazy.
I would never do that.
Yeah.
On the independent front.
Yeah, yeah. And so for then, just, you know, for all the folks that are dreaming about getting signed to a major label, like that's the end game, what is, when your experience at Sony in particular, what would be, you know, an average number for a band that's just starting off who now have gotten the dream, I got a record deal? What do they spend on a brand new act that's not proven themselves?
Well, what I'm seeing now from the labels is there's no such thing as what you and I used to know as we're going after it.
Yeah.
It's a priority.
Yeah.
And
more Donnie Einer.
And all of the chips on the table are in. Yeah, Donnie wants it type thing, yeah. But now it's really in increments. It's almost, not to take a shot at the labels because they still serve a very good purpose, but they're more in, let's put the foot in the pool, test the water, let's go like this. So they want to see it in stages. So to answer your question, what is that stage checking? It's probably $50,000 to $100,000. in marketing. And that can consist of, taking a record to radio, building some physical assets, right? Photo shoot and so forth. Maybe some money to get them out on the road, their first touring experience, etc.
Yeah. Well, it's not cheap no matter where you go. And we're going to talk about what it takes to do that, or the things that indie artists can do on their own. But before we do that, when we started the website, Fred, part of the idea was to give people a place where they could get real answers from a real music pro. As you mentioned, there are all kinds of people that say they're in the label service business. There must be 10 times as many music business experts offering advice to indie artists, for free and otherwise, who we would never know in a million years. And I'm just going to say, when you've been in the business 38 years and you don't know who they are, it's probably not a great sign. So I started this little area of the site called Ask Renman. Show the folks where that is, Code. It's called Ask Renman. You go in there, you got to be a member of the site and register. But once you've done that, you can post your question here, and I will answer it whenever I can, which is usually pretty religiously. But today, I wanted to take one and use you as another voice in that conversation. Okay. Today we've changed the Ask Renman to Ask Fredman. Okay. Fred, maybe you want to have a show with it. The Renman Live, Fredman Live, all of them.
Can I get the big F on the T-shirts?
It's showbiz, Fred. Right. So we got a question today. It's from, I don't know if it's a lady or a guy. The name is Tanveer J from London, England. And here is her question. She says, hey, Fred, it's actually Ren. I'm 16 and desperately want to work in the music industry as a manager. I want to start by working at a label or management company, and I do this for free. I've sent off many emails and have all been unsuccessful. Do you have any advice on how I could get some work at a label? Fred? Mm-hmm. You kind of alluded to how you got it going.
Or management.
Or management. You've been in the management business a little bit too?
Yes, yeah. So getting back to networking.
Yeah.
And actually being kind of a pest, being very tenacious is very important for you. I would say management companies, there's some great management companies in London. So getting in on the ground floor, internships, how are you going to get those? Not just sending something via email, not just dropping something off. You're going to have to make personal contact with somebody, and it's going to have to be undeniable. They're going to have to go, this person really, really wants it. You can't show them how hungry you are. You have to be over the top. So that impression is going to get you in the door. As far as labels go, it all starts with HR people. The radio people, the marketing people, they don't want to get into that. So entry-level internships, here in the U.S., it's really kind of based around the summer season, and getting in with the HR departments, because they're the ones that are going to hire you.
Yeah, I'll add something to that. Tanveer's 16 years old. You know what I love about that, Fred? Not even out of high school, and they're thinking about their job in the music. But the moral of the story, folks, is you'll likely hear 1,000 no's before you get that great yes.
Yeah.
So the sooner you start asking, the sooner you start putting yourself in that zone, the better it is for everybody.
I want to say one other thing about interns, because we hire interns. Yeah. The best interns that have ever worked with me, and that's both on the label side at CBS Records, where we had a great internship program, and also my small company. The best interns and the ones that go on to have a career, and some of them that have worked for me are in very high roles at labels right now, were always the ones that couldn't get enough knowledge. They came in and there's like cleaning, there's mailroom services, there's all that kind of crap. But the fact is, you have to, once you get your foot in that door, you have to ask questions to learn the terminology, what the sales guy does, what the radio promo guy does on a daily basis. The more knowledge you can extract, that makes you valuable. That makes you valuable to them. They're not looking for an intern that just comes in, does, they leave at 5, okay, it's clean. They want somebody pushing them and going, hey, what's this? What's BDS? What's media base? What's SoundScan? Can you go over it with me? The more knowledge that you have, the more invaluable you're going to be.
I think that's great advice, and I'll add one thing to that. And part of it is people developing that sense of the room. You got to do that after you've made sure you've covered all your stuff, and do it in a way that's not annoying or taking people's time. And so that's part of getting a sensibility about how the business worked and how players and people work. But great advice. You got to be tenacious, folks. Pick your spots. But you cannot be too smart in the music because it's changing every day. Even the smart people today got a little dumber overnight because something changed, okay? All right, now, I know all these folks have been waiting here patiently to get some advice about how we can help them, Fred. You know, we now know what happens at a major label, right? So let's talk about, and let's assume for the moment that most of the indie artists watching here today, for sure, and even some of the smaller indie labels, don't have the kind of money to do even the front-end baby band version of a marketing plan at a major label. There are so many things to think of, and in our course here, throw up that graphic. Here's just some of the things that we talked about in that RenmanU course here. This is on marketing, 16 things, and it's probably more than that. So, you know, let's talk about, Fred, you're a band, you're releasing that record. When that kid calls you up and says, hey, I'm getting ready to release this record, how do I promote it, Fred? Right. What are you going to tell them? And let's assume they have no money, and give me some thoughts. What's important for them to be thinking about? So now we're going to
talk at A and go to B.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's different levels, and I want to get to the record labels as well, because a lot of you out there may want to be on a label. Some want to remain indie artists, so we'll
that's
talk
a whole
about,
different conversation.
We'll talk about that. But when you're beginning, the first thing that you have to think about is not necessarily hiring somebody like me, not necessarily hiring a manager. You have to think about yourself, your brand. What you just put up in graphics, I thought was very spot on.
Show that again real quick, Fred.
Was very spot on.
Yeah, there you go. Keep talking, Fred. He's going to just tell the story behind it.
So anyway, music first, you know?
Starts with the music.
Great music. We've talked a little bit about the marketing, and we can talk further about that. But first and foremost is the music. And the music has to be competitive. It has to be beyond family and friends. Wow, that's so cool. You did that at home. Wow, awesome. Okay, so you have to do some testing there. There's a lot of things that you can do to get the music out there. But you have to think about your brand. I saw about Target, about who is your audience. Identifying who is your audience is really important, beyond family and friends, right? So, you know, genre, etc. A lot of people make great music and have come in and they've played me a disc. And once again, I'm not an A&R person. I don't make records.
But you have opinions about music, but that's not what you do.
But I have opinions. One is a singer-songwriter track. One is a country track. One has an urban flair to it. Guess what? Don't do it. Okay? You have to pick a lane. Not because I'm telling you.
Say that again for folks. You know, you can't be everything. What'd you say?
You cannot
pick a lane?
Yeah, pick a lane and super serve that lane. Be in that lane. Because when you're creating your brand on your own, that's where we're going to start, on your own. And we're not talking about spending a lot of money. Okay? And I'll talk about the steps there. But everything now begins with your brand. Think about, you know, the photo that you want to use to identify, or a few photos to identify your band or you as an artist. Think about logo. What's the name going to look like? Does it fit the music? You don't want kind of a country, you know, flair if you're a rapper.
Yeah.
You know, you have to. I've seen some really crazy messed up imagery. And so imagery has to be correct. That's not a lot of money. If you got a computer, you can do it yourself, or you usually have somebody has a friend that's pretty good graphically. So music, social networks. What can I say? This is the part of the area right now where when I was at a label, it was not the first thing we talk to artists about, but it is now.
Yeah.
So getting that Twitter base up, getting that Facebook base up, Instagram,
Online.
Periscope, Snapchat, it goes on and on and on, and being consistent about it. So some artists are very consistent, posting stuff 3 times a week. There's no right or wrong here, and that's what I want to stress. Some are consistent about 10 times a day. Whatever it is, remain consistent with it. Because you got to remember, your social networks are your TV channel, like Renman right here.
Yeah.
They're your TV channel, so consistency is what people are looking for. There's also, when you're doing social networking, please remember what I refer to as the 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule is that 80% of the time, you're either sharing a song, a picture, something cool, what you're doing. It's stuff that is not about commerce. 20%, if you go over 20% of the time, to say, hey, got a new t-shirt for sale. Hey, see my show. Buy tickets now. Hey, new CD's out, buy it. If that goes over, guess what? You just made a monumental mistake, and you are now a commerce site. Now you're Walmart to the world. Guess what? People start shutting off. They don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
Right? You want to watch a show with too many commercials?
No.
So that's a little thing there. But all those things, if you have a phone, you can call and book your own shows when you're beginning.
And there's some great resources on the web to do that, to help you.
There's absolutely great resources. And there's so many clubs here in LA. They'll take your cold call.
Yeah.
They'll take music. Yeah, we'll have you.
Yeah.
So you've got to not think about having somebody start your career for you.
Yeah.
You have to do it. You have to think about your music. It is a business. So you got to remember, you got to be taken as credible. You can't expect other people to take it more serious, like a potential manager, potential booking agent, potential label, if you are not taking it serious.
Yeah, you made an interesting point there, because so many artists, are looking for that agent, they're looking for the label, they're looking for the great manager or whatever it might be. And the truth of the matter is, you're not attracted to them in the beginning. And so the best way, I've said it to folks, is the best way to get a great manager or to get a label or to get an agent is to actually be that and to make some things happen. Because whether you're a label, an agent, or a manager, none of the real pros want to start at square one. They want to have something to work with. So it's important for you artists out there to take Fred's advice and make something happen on your own. Now, I want to take a little break because I got a couple things. I got somebody I want to talk to on the phone here. We're going to come back, and then I want to go through a couple points here, Fred, and I'll kind of lead you through some of the questions that I get asked all the time about independent promotion, publicity, video, no video, and all that stuff. But before we do that, I want to see if I can pay some bills here, folks, myself. Okay. Speaking of sales, Fred Croshal has got me all fired up here.
But you're not going over the 20% rule.
No,
we're all good.
No. The guys I've had on this couch, including you, Fred, there's no way I could go 80-20. So, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we developed this online course to help artists and pros navigate their way around the music business. It's called RenmanU Insider's Guide. Show Freddie the course there, okay? It's 150 videos that cover all the major areas of the music business, from marketing and promotion, touring, sales, publicity, everything that you could think of, I think. Not everything, but all the stuff that you need to know to get started in the business. It comes in 2 different flavors. There's the solo version, which is the course. All of the courses are followed with questions. This solo version, go at your own pace. You can study what you want, when you want. It works on your computer, laptop, tablet, smartphone. You get lifetime access to all the updates because we update the course with bits and pieces of interviews like yours today, Fred, that give people some insight. And for $99, folks, at the risk of sounding like a shameless promoter, for all the folks that are contemplating college and all the people that find money for a new guitar, pedal, and they're still in their bedroom, that $99 $29 will let you know whether you think you should really be in the music business or not. There's also another version of the course. It's called the mentor version. We had a lot of people when we put the course out said, I want to have access and be able to talk to you, Ren. So we took that to heart. And so it's basically everything you get in the video course, but I'm going to be your personal mentor for 10 weeks. And it's a structured 10-week program. You'll get emails every week to tell you what we're talking about, daily lessons to keep you on track, and then you'll get a private Google Hangout with me for 10 weeks in a row. You can ask me virtually anything, downloadable MP3s and all of that stuff. And we've had about 5 folks sign up so far, including our friend Miss Liz Quintanilla over there. Yesterday, I got a great email. If you're going to do anything in the music business or in life, you need some help, you need people to support you. And so yesterday, I got an email from a gentleman that I met as part of the show. His name is Stephan O'Reilly. Show the email real quick, Code. And he said, hope's all well. Anyways, I'm a big fan and love all the positive things you're doing for the aspiring music. As a gesture of goodwill, I would like to pay for one of the courses for a student that might not have the money. Mm-hmm. So if there's anyone here you want to sign up $5 in a little hard work for them, I will personally pay.
That's great.
It's things like that, yeah, Fred, that keep me doing it. Because as much as I love doing it and as much as the great feedback I've gotten on it, it's a lot of work sometimes. And it also, not to belabor the point, to do something right, it costs a little bit of money. So anyway, I was blown away by that. So I met Stephan at Meet Him. We've had a chance to talk. He relentlessly retweets and promotes all of our stuff. So I thought I'd get him on the phone today to personally thank him in front of everybody that's been on our show. You on the phone there, Stephan?
Hello, Steve. Nice to hear from you.
There he is, Stephan O'Reilly, an Irishman by way of London. Meet my friend Fred Croshal.
Hey, Stephan.
Hey, Fred. It's lovely to listen to you today. I was checking out some of your work. Amazing. I'm going to look to meet you one day.
Oh, thank you. I'd love to meet you.
Now, Stephan has worked at some, music tech companies, but he's a manager as well. He was actually, for you folks that are looking, Stephan actually was a guest on our show. We did a show from Meet Him, right? Mm-hmm. And this is a funny story, Fred. I'm walking down the street. I'm invited over there to do some presentation at one of their panels. And so I thought, okay, well, you got to help me put on my Renman live show. So they had this big theater that they had set up, had all big cameras. And the only thing I didn't have was any guests. So walking down the street, I run into our friend Jordan Burlian, who used to manage Lincoln Park.
Yes,
hey, want to be on the show? Great. I met another gal, this young French manager, and somewhere along the line, I run into Stephan O'Reilly. I said, so be on the show. So that's how I got my show. Anyway, Stephan's an aspiring manager. Any questions for Fred while you got him here, Stephan?
No, I'd just love to meet you one day and have a coffee with you. Next time I'm in LA, I'll give you a shout. Yes, sorry.
Please do.
I've been working from a hotel today, and the internet's been a bit crappy, so I'm going to properly get the show when I get home this evening.
All right, perfect.
Fantastic.
Well, I just wanted to take the time, Stephan, to say how much I appreciate your generous offer. And I told Stephan this morning that we're going to try to put together a little promotion for the folks out there. So if somebody can actually now compete for what we're going to call the Stephan O'Reilly scholarship. Here in LA, Stephan, Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine paid $70 million to get their name on a wall. I don't expect that to happen. But you just bought the wall of RenmanU. I can tell you that, my friend.
I'm honored, and hopefully, we can find someone this time around, and in the future, I'd love to help out again. I just wanted to say that, I've learned so much from your show over the years. I've met so many great people, and it's been so valuable to me, since day one. And I just wanted to thank you. And I just thought that there might be someone out there that needed a little bit of help.
Well, there's lots of people that need the help, but there are not nearly as many people willing to offer that help. Yeah. So I'll thank you for that today, Stephan. And all kidding aside, I can't tell you how much that means to me. It's not about the money. It's about the gesture. So thank you so much. I'll let you get back to work. And next time I'm in England, I'm going to buy you a beer. And if you come to L.A. and see Fred before you see me, I'm going to be freaking really pissed,
We'll
Stephan.
get together for sure. Travel safe.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Stephan.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Right. Unbelievable, right?
That's great.
And you know
That
what's
is
amazing to me, Fred, and it's something that can help all the artists. It used to be when we were working the record biz, we were working America, we were working Southern Cal, we were working Pacific, and there were kind of definable boundaries, Today, all that's gone away. We get people from all over the planet. Some kid yesterday just bought the course from France. We've had kids calling from Ghana wanting to know how to start a label, and it just blows my mind. But when people are generous when they don't have to be, that's even better. So for all you folks that are watching, we're going to come up with a little promotion to award that Stephen O'Reilly scholarship to some deserving customer.
By the way, that is awesome, and it's the reason why I'm here today, because it's gone away in the business.
Yeah.
Inside the labels, I was blessed. CBS Records at the time, they even had a school of management that they sent us to, mentoring and elevating the next troops up to the next level was important.
Yeah.
They saw it as a company culture that they had to do. That's really gone to the wayside now.
Yeah.
A lot of, we won't get into the horror stories,
Yeah.
but a lot of sink and swim and executives on this high level that won't talk to the lower tier. And so anyway.
Yeah, I was lucky in my career to have some great mentors and remembered it. So, okay, let's go back now to these folks out here looking for some answers. I'm going to throw some things at you. Show that list of items again here, Code, for me, right? And I'm going to go down here some things. Independent artists hears a bunch of bands on the radio. They hear somebody say, we got to hire some indie promotion guys, right?
Yeah.
Your thoughts on trying to get on the radio and hiring independent promotion if you don't have all these other plates spinning?
Okay.
Take it away, Fred.
Okay, scenario, independent artists or label artists?
Independent artists, we're talking now to the people that are actually watching, who we know can't afford.
So what we refer to as the gatekeepers, the program directors, music directors.
Keep talking, Fred.
At terrestrial radio.
Fuck, here's your shirt.
Nice, good
Fred,
timing.
there you go, Fred.
Oh, yeah.
There you go, timing. That's our motto.
I also say that. Okay.
Yeah, do you?
But the fact is that they're almost, and you got to roll with me here, pre-programmed to give that person trying to get the record played on their station 10 reasons why they can't. So it's already a negative situation. So the person that is the promotion person, indie promoter, or indie promotion team that goes in there, they better have a lot of bullets in their gun. What are bullets in the gun? PD's gonna go, okay, what's their social network numbers look like? You got any touring going on? Is there videos to look at on YouTube? It goes on and on and on. So what you want to do is, look, they've sold X amount on iTunes independently. They've got an upcoming, national tour that's going on. The more bullets in the gun, the better the odds are. The more that the radio guys feel that the foundation is not built around it, they won't just take the song. Even if it's a great song, they'll go, you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
You're not ready yet. So foundation building is what we wanted to talk about. I know we got it with no budget. We got it with a little bit of budget. We got it with a little bit more of budget. And I'm kind of that hub that can give that kind of consultation where you're at. But, you've got to be honest with yourself. You're not ready for a publicist yet.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the publicist. But just to recap, so for most folks that are out there today, unless you have all these other elements of the story that we talked about in that introduction to marketing and promotion, if you were to go out and hire an independent promotion, and I'll say this, there are plenty of people out there that will take these folks' money. I've watched it happen and just cry at some of the horror stories.
Unfortunately, it can be a money pit.
Yeah.
It literally, $50,000, $100,000 can go. with very little to zero results.
And by the way, the greatest promotion people armed with all those bullets may not get
Succeed.
that radio
That's right.
station. So for you folks out there contemplating hiring an independent promotion person because you heard us talk about it on the show, understand you only do that when you have some other things happening. Now let's talk to the other one I get asked all the time. Hey, Steve, we're putting out a record. Never tell me how much money they have, right? And we want to hire a publicist. Do you have any recommendations? When is the right time to hire a publicist? Fred Croshal.
This is about evaluating whether your story is even big enough to have a publicist. If there's no story there,
But I'm putting out a record. Isn't that a story?
a publicist will take your money, but they're not going to go very far. So, it has to start with what is built. So if it's social networks, if it's a record release, if it's gotten traction on terrestrial radio, if there's anything else that is going on, then it's really about timing. But I think independent artists that come speak to me, the two areas that they really falter because they shoot the bullets way too early is hiring a publicist and hiring indie radio.
Yeah.
Not built up enough, waste of money. Timing is everything. So you have to have your creative assets in place. You have to have somewhat of your story created so that they can even write a proper bio of who you are, what you are, and the path you want to go. But to say, man, you got a great song, can't they just get it all written about in every magazine? That's crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
You're thinking crazy.
It doesn't work. So when I think about this, Fred, I think about the things that you can control, and you've touched on it, on a couple of things, and bios and all these things are part of it. It's that element of presentation that we flashed up here earlier. Presentation, okay, is something that an artist can control because you're telling your own story. So getting great photos, you can do that. My son's got a great camera and doing all that stuff, making videos and all of that stuff. So let's talk about some of those controllable items. You get with a brand new artist. Video, no video. Lyric video, concept video. Thoughts?
So I think all of the above. And once again, we're in a laptop and smartphone world. Your social networks, shooting a lo-fi video. Right? YouTube has showed us that, even the production that you have today, it doesn't have to be of that magnitude. Lo-fi is really acceptable, and especially when you're growing. If you have a little bit of budget, you can make it look nicer, do it. But that's where I would spend money before I would spend it on publicist or radio promotion. I would spend it on stuff that is imaging and branding of you as an artist. Is it a better presentation?
So that when somebody discovers you, wherever it might be, that they are favorably impressed. They go, I think these guys got a great angle. They got a good sense of who they are. That notion, that comment you made earlier about picking a lane, part of that is understanding what your true self is and then doing your best to present it. Importance of a website for artists just start. Do they need to be their own? Can it be a Bandcamp or Reverb Nation? Your thoughts on website as a marketing tool?
I think those that you mentioned are, once again, cost-efficient alternatives, but it still is no substitute for having your own. You got to remember that a website, and a lot of people go, I'll just do it off my socials. Your website becomes a headquarters, a hub. And I'm a firm believer in still having that hub, and it can be whether it's driving commerce and so forth. There are people that want to know more about you. It's where you can house a lot more information, photo galleries, stuff. This is where you're creating your base that's ultimately going to be your Uber fan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like setting up your storefront today, isn't it? Right? If we were going to bed. We have some questions over there. So I heard the phone keeps ringing. Are they just losing their patience?
We have some questions in the chat room.
Okay, let's take a couple questions from the chat room for Fred while we're here. They don't get a chance to talk to a real pro. Give me a question there, Liz.
Okay, so one.
Speak up a little bit, please.
What is your number one tip, Fred, for indie artists for them to get marketed?
So, once again, I'll get back to the basics of foundation building. Number one, great songs. Have your music be the best it can be. Number two would be then those elements of packaging.
Presentation,
Like I said, presentation, photos, font style. Think about all this stuff and think very hard about what is identifiable with your genre of music and who you are. Remember, the pictures that people see, the font style that you use, the music, that is your mission statement. So if you don't get that right first, you're not even at the starting line.
Yeah, and I think, in fact, it can hurt you if you got it wrong in the beginning and somebody paid attention, they think they know you, and you go, no, that's not, well, they already have that image in their mind. I've gone through that myself.
No, I used to be country and now I'm,
Yeah, or I can do anything. I can play all kinds of music. Any other questions there, Liz?
Not at the moment.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I got plenty for Fred. Okay, we're running a little over our hour as usual. So one final one on these nuts and bolts things, right? Distributing the record.
Yeah.
In a digital world with artists with limited budget, right, that need to use all their bullets in the most efficient way possible. If you had a brand new artist, would you recommend that they go all digital? Should they print CDs? Should they print LPs? Or which require inventory, manufacturing, read, write, check?
Yeah.
Or is digital enough to get them started? And if so, what would be your recommendations on digital outlets?
So first and foremost, the with a limited budget, I wouldn't do anything in hard physical manufacturing.
CD, LP, or otherwise?
I wouldn't, unless you already have a good touring component. Therefore, I would, there's plenty of manufacturers. CDs don't cost that much. And what I would do if you're a young band that really has a tight budget, but you have a tour coming up and it's going to be multiple dates, I would urge you to probably go press some up, spend a few $100s, get enough of them to sell at the shows, meet with people after the show or before the show, sign them, have them become your fans, and I'd even go further to take that money every night, and that's your money for food, maybe a hotel room, and gas money to get you to the next city. Now that's really stringing a low budget.
Yeah.
Okay? That's being smart and efficient. Getting back to distribution, my favorite for artists that have little to no money is TuneCore. TuneCore, once again, you pay a fee one time, and there's really no distribution fees beyond that.
Yeah.
All the money comes back to you at that point. The other thing I would just warn against, I see a lot of new artists do this. They go through TuneCore, they put it up, and they put it up either too quickly, like right now, tomorrow, etc. Once again, you want to be taking credible and serious. So remember that release dates are Fridays. TuneCore doesn't tell you that. So anybody that throws their music up for sale on like Thursday or Monday, you're not going to be taken seriously anyway. So be with the rest of the world. Release on Friday, okay? Number two, don't release it like next week after you get it done.
It's set up, right?
You gotta set it up. So if you have no money to spend on consumer advertising, publicity, all those other things, at least give yourself a window of opportunity to tell your family, your friends, social networking, whatever that base is, activation, awareness of the release. That could be literally, 4 to 6 weeks.
Great.
Okay? And proper setup for a major release, in my mind, is at least 3 months.
Yeah. I think most people don't understand that, because maybe the industry just did it so well that they didn't really notice. But when you listen to major radio stations, they're always talking about, here's the new single, you can check out the new video, a couple things to talk about, whet the appetite, and then the release date's coming in. Now, obviously,
you're building a crescendo.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of people ask me, okay, the Bonnie, and it was everywhere, and it was written about, and da-da-da, and when did the whole team of people, and those conversations and everything really begin? That was an April release that I started October 1st of the previous year.
Yeah, things don't just appear. Well, they actually do appear, but they've been in the pipeline approaching, and it's like that shark that you see.
And it's also targeted at specific times.
Yeah. Did you watch Shark Week?
I did.
I watched it up in Lake Tahoe, and I think about it because they have these great scenes of these seals swimming along here, right? And then this shark was approaching for a long time, but he just came out of nowhere and grabbed that little poor bastard and choked him to death. Do we have a phone call over there, Liz? Boy, what's the question? Oh, let's take her. She's on the phone. You feeling dangerous here, Fred?
Let's go.
Okay, we're going to take another phone call here. Okay, who is it?
Hi, Renman. It's Dragon Midnight from the Undead Hearts.
The Undead Hearts. Did I just meet the Undead Hearts on Periscope? Talking about keeping up.
Yes, sir, you did.
Well, nice to meet you, man. And you took my advice and called in to talk to real marketers. You have a question for Fred? Where are you from, by the way?
I'm out here in Los Angeles. I've been an Angelino for about 10 years now.
All right, perfect. You're on with Fred Croshal. What's your question?
Hey, Draven.
Hey, Fred. I got to say that a lot of what both you and Renman have been discussing are very, very relevant to my present career. I'm about 20 years in with my music journey at this point, and a lot of what's been holding me back is not having the right mentorship to lead towards the path to success. So I want to give you both a shout out and a thank you for putting this together. This is leaves a long impact for what I'm doing. So,
well, I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the kind words. For me, it really means so much to me to give back.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, I've been very blessed in my career, and things happen for a reason, and we have to pass on something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, while you have your new marketing mentor on the phone here, you have a specific question? Although we're happy just to take the accolade.
I love the accolades. I'm sure we can get into a very deep discussion, but I want to keep...
Well, we only have about 5 minutes before we're dead today.
Facebook as a marketing channel for inexpensive marketing. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, once again, if you're not having a website, I really do like, Facebook interaction, depending on genre.
I mean the Facebook ads platform.
Oh, Facebook ads.
Yeah.
I got to tell you that I've actually had a lot of success because of the cost effectiveness. And everything from selling, shows to... especially shows in targeted markets, especially, I view them as the gift that keeps on giving. And
boy, Mark Zuckerberg would be happy to hear that. I'll tell you.
They just are super, super effective, because consumer advertising, as we know, traditional sense, television spots, radio spots, so over the top expensive. You better be a top-tier artist to even discuss it.
And it's difficult to target at that national level where Facebook gives you a little bit more ability to dial down.
So if you were to do, hypothetically, your band based here in LA.
He's over there. You can talk to the camera, Fred. We have to give you that instruction. Okay. You're good.
So if you were to have a West Coast tour, I would strongly recommend throwing some dollars in the Facebook ads and driving people out.
I'll tell you what, nothing else, if I could weigh in there, we do a little bit of Facebook and YouTube advertising, right? And it is fairly cheap, and it extends the reach of your message. Now, somebody still has to be inclined to listen to it, but it does extend it. And what I've noticed about Facebook lately is they must have YouTube in their sites now, because if you post videos on Facebook as opposed to linking to YouTube, all things being equal, you get about triple the looks I've found, and so they're very conscious, those folks of.
Are you guys familiar with Ari Herstad?
Sure.
He just posted a link about Facebook video views, or an article, and he's saying that those numbers are based on the 3-second preview when people scroll through a video in their wall, so they're kind of bloated. Impact for YouTube videos is, I mean, if you have a curated channel, then you get more impact. But on the surface, the new Facebook video product is pretty cool. It does look like you get a lot of.
Well, you hit on something that's very interesting that we learned the hard way, and frankly, there is no internet stupid mistake that we haven't covered yet. Fair comment. There's probably a couple we haven't fucked up yet, Cody, but we'll get to them.
Hey, they're changing every day.
We'll get to them. Well, we figured out,
Guys.
if it helps any of you folks, to that 30-second mentality. Today, you see me scribbling notes here, folks. It's, I am forgetful, but I do remember stuff. It's me getting sound bites, because what we do is try to get 15, 20-second sound bite in front of every video. That would get your attention, because we know we're going to lose them in 30 seconds. And by the way, the same is true in the music business. You have a new single and kids want to send me their single. I go, you better make sure it jumps and grabs me in the first 30, 40 seconds or I'm done. Okay, I don't want no 2-minute opus before it gets to the money in the song. So anyway, well, you know what? I want to thank you so much for calling in. I encourage you to spend some time on the site. Because there's lots of great information there. So, but good luck to you, and thanks for calling in. And I hope we'll hear from you again.
I'll be in touch.
Perfect.
I promise. If you're having experience with, or if you're having a tough time with anything online, I've been developing since '95. I'm an online business coach, and that's what I do as my career. Funding the music habit that I have. So
smart guy, kept the day gig,
I would
Fred.
love to reconnect.
By the way, Fred
smart.
and I have been wondering for 38 years whether we were going to have to get a day gig. So, all right, terrific. All right, well, Fred, I could go on for days. I could ask. Let me ask you one final. Cody, you may have to end the show today. Because I'm out of gas here on my iPad. We run all this stuff here, the little tricks Cody gives me. Let me ask you one final. It's a hot button question today, and it's not, what do you think about Donald Trump? There's so much talk these days about streaming services and whether they're helping or hurting artists. It may be just more fundamental that people are listening to music in different ways. But the argument always ends with, is this killing the music business? Is it killing artists? Fred, you've worked at record companies. You've worked side by side with artists. You manage artists. Is Spotify and streaming services in general, throw Beats, throw them all in there, right? Helping or hurting artists at the end of the day?
I think it's helping artists. I'm an advocate of streaming, and I'll tell you why. As, a marketing person and also a management person. Right now, there is definitely some issues with protection of the artist's content, and also, the monies that are coming back. I do think that things are headed in the right way to even out that playing field, if you will. I really do. So that isn't the concern. As far as streaming goes, the reason I'm an advocate is for a new artist, right? We talked about radio earlier, okay? Traditional terrestrial radio, $100,000, I threw it away and stuff like that. This is the sure way to get your music out. There's so many discovery mechanisms, playlists within all the streaming services. So to get that kind of following, there's no substitute for a developing artist right now. How I would use those for a lot of the artists that are branded, that don't-
When you say brand, you mean artists that have a track record, have a career, Jackson Brown,
Bonnie
Bonnie, right?
Jackson, like that. The way I would use those streaming services is more of a specific marketing tool. So it may be a non-album track or something that I'm releasing right on top of the full album release, but not necessarily 2 to 3 months prior.
Yeah, a little bit of a teaser.
So there's a different efficiency level and use depending on the strength of the artist brand at that point. Also, those streaming services want something unique from those artists that are already made.
Yeah.
So for most of the artists that are listening today, that are in development mode, you should roll.
Yeah, and I hope you take to heart, what we talked about earlier, Don't get lost in these silly freaking arguments about getting paid. Now, this is coming from a guy who spent the better part of my life trying to get artists paid, and I enjoy when the artist gets paid. But the risk of getting screwed if you're successful in the music business is so far outweighed by the risk that nobody will know who you are.
Exactly.
That when you're just starting off, get your music as wide as possible. If it makes a connection, if it attracts the great manager and a label and all that stuff, trust me, you'll find a way to get paid.
It's helping build your brand. If you don't have a brand, there is no money to argue about
or to
anyway.
get screwed out of. Thank you very much. On that note, folks, we're going to wrap it up here today. On next week on the show, on Wednesday, August 26th, I've got a great guest I invite you to watch, Fred. We'll be joined by a young gentleman, 26-year-old EDM entrepreneur by the name of Ethan Baer, who's the co-founder of EDM.com. There is handsome young man. We're going to be talking about how he built EDM.com into one of the most important promo machines and music discovery sites out there for electronic music. My son here is taking pictures, and he first told me about it, so I know it's freaking him. Before I leave, I want to thank Fred for coming here back to the show. You were awesome.
My pleasure.
I want to thank our lovely Renman Live team back there, who I constantly beat up on the program. I want you to know I love you guys, but I just get so fucking stressed out. And I want to thank our friend Joseph Pepe out there in South Carolina for doing our social media and doing an unbelievable. But most of all, I want to thank all those musical renegades around the planet who are dreaming of doing something big. Today, I hope today you make it the day that you stop dreaming and start doing it. I hope I've helped you, and me and Fred have helped you out a little bit. My name's Steve Rennie. I'm the Renman. This little program is called Renman Live, and I am out of here till next Wednesday. See you later. I'm going to share with you the secrets of how the top people in this music business learned what it took to be successful and how you can do the same. We're going to talk about all the new ways you can learn the music business today and figure out what's the right way for you.